Hello everyone. In this today's video tutorial, in this session, we are going to discuss one numerical based on eccentrically loaded bolted joint in shear. We are aware that these kind of numericals belong to course outcome number 5, wherein after studying this unit, students will be able to design threaded and welded joints subjected to eccentric loads like jib-headed cranes. We are aware that four different type of numericals can be asked based on this topic of threaded joints, and of that first type, that is eccentrically loaded bolted joints in shear, we are studying right now. Type number 1, wherein we have to study bolted joint subjected to eccentric load which causes shear inside the cross section of the bolt. Here one can notice that a plate or a bracket is attached with a support using say 4 number of bolts, Z number of bolts, and the bracket or the plate is subjected to eccentric load W. Load is called as eccentric because it is not passing through the CG of the bolted system. Here, four bolts are used, and due to symmetry, one can directly predict its center will be the CG of this bolted system, wherein four bolts are used for attaching the plate or the bracket to the support. Applied load is not passing through the CG, therefore it is called as eccentric load. This eccentric load will cause shearing of the bolts, and actually there will be primary and secondary two type of shear loads, due to which primary and secondary shear stresses are getting developed inside the cross section of the bolt. The primary and the secondary shear loads can be added vectorically, and their vector sum will represent resultant shear load. Resultant shear load, when divided by core cross section area, will represent induced maximum shear stress. When this induced maximum shear stress is equated with permissible shear stress, while equating AC, the core cross section area will be the unknown that will be found out. Once we know value of AC, the core cross section area, using this core cross section area, we can decide or determine value of TC, the core diameter. Core diameter when multiplied by 1.19 or divided by 0.84, we represent the nominal diameter of the bolt required for that particular assembly, and based on this value of D, next standard M value of the bolt will be specified as the bolt selected for this particular assembly. Now let us solve one numerical based on this concept of eccentrically loaded bolted joint in shear. Here one can note that three bolts are used for attaching this bracket to the support, and a load of 2370 Newton is applied at the end of the bracket. This applied load is eccentric one because it is not passing through the CG of the bolt. CG of the bolt will be somewhere here. In this case, they are specified SYT value, yield strength for the bolt material, and also the factor of safety. Now here, at a glance, we can say that the bolted system is not symmetric one. Therefore, directly by judgment, by inspection, we cannot predict the center of gravity of this bolted system, and that's why we need to employ certain consideration for locating the center of gravity. Now in this case, three of the bolts are used. Therefore, primary forces which will be same for each of the bolt will be given by W upon Z, where Z is the number of bolts. In this case, number of bolts is equal to 3. Therefore, primary forces are having value of 790 Newton. Permissible shear stress for the bolt material, which will be required later on, but here only we are calculating it. It will be given by shear strength divided by factor of safety, but shear strength is given as 0.5 times SYT, the yield strength. So yield strength is specified as 345. The factor of safety is given as 2.7. Therefore, tau permissible will be calculated as 63.88 Newton per millimeter square. This value of tau permissible we are in need of later on. Now here, as one can note, the system of the bolt is not symmetric one, and therefore by judgment we cannot predict the location of the center of gravity for this bolted system. For such a case where by judgment one cannot predict the center of gravity or one cannot locate the center of gravity, for such case we have to employ certain consideration for locating the center of gravity. In such cases, general procedure required to be followed as: assume the lower left bolt its center as the origin of a Cartesian coordinate system. Consider lower left, lowermost and leftmost lower left bolt its center as the center of Cartesian coordinate system. So center of bolt number one is lowermost and leftmost bolt, lower left bolt. Its center will be assumed as origin of the Cartesian coordinate system. Now here, if we want to find out coordinates for center of bolt number 2, its x coordinate is 0. For bolt number 2, x coordinate is 0, whereas y coordinate is 90. So for bolt number 2, the coordinates are 0 and 90. X coordinate is 0, y coordinate is 90. If we want to find out coordinates for bolt number 3, then its x coordinate is 90 and y coordinate is also 90. So its coordinates are 90 and 90. X coordinate is 90, y coordinate is 90. So here, by this consideration, first of all, we have to find out coordinates of different bolts present in the bolted system, which is not symmetric, and that's why we are not in position to locate its center of gravity by judgment or by mere inspection. For such all cases, considering the lower left bolt as the and its center as the center of Cartesian coordinate system, we have defined coordinates of each of the bolts present inside the system. Now here, this bolt number 1, its coordinates are x1 and y1. In this case, bolt number 1, its center is the origin of Cartesian coordinate system. Therefore, x1 is equal to 0 and y1 is equal to 0. Then coordinates of bolt number 2 are 0 and 90. Therefore, x2 is equal to 0 and y2 is equal to 90. Coordinates of bolt number 3 are 90 and 90. Therefore, x3 is equal to 90 and y3 is equal to 90. Now, once we define coordinates of each of the bolt present inside this bolted system, then we can define the coordinates of the center of gravity of this bolted system as x coordinate, x bar for the center of gravity G is given as x1 plus x2 plus x3 plus so on xn, xz divided by z. where Z is the number of bolts. So you have to add x coordinate of all the Z number of bolts and divide it by number of bolts Z. In this particular case, Z is equal to 3. 3 bolts are used. Therefore, adding x coordinates of all the 3 bolts, x1 plus x2 plus x3, and dividing it by Z is equal to 3, that will represent x coordinate x bar for the center of gravity G. In this particular case, x1 being 0, x2 being 0, and x3 being 90, x bar happens to be equal to 30. On the similar lines, y coordinate of the center of gravity will be calculated as y1 plus y2 plus y3 divided by 3. Here three number of bolts are used. Therefore, we have added y1 plus y2 plus y3. We have to add y coordinates of z number of bolts and divide this sum by z number of bolts. In this case, bolts are 3, therefore y1 plus y2 plus y3 divided by 3. You can note y1 is equal to 0, y2 is equal to 90, y3 is equal to 90. So 0 plus 90 plus 90 divided by 3. So y bar, the y coordinate of the center of gravity is equal to 60. So x coordinate is 30, y coordinate is 60 for the center of gravity. X coordinate is 30, y coordinate is 60, x coordinate is 30, y coordinate is 60. Here, considering x and y coordinate, we can locate center of gravity of this bolted system, which is not symmetric one, which is asymmetric, and that's why it is not possible to locate its center of gravity by mere inspection. So likewise, having this consideration, applying this method, we can locate CG of the bolted system. We are in need of CG because we have to measure the distances L1, L2, L3 from the CG. Also, we have to find out eccentricity with respect to this CG of bolted system. Therefore, we are in need of this CG, and that is located for a symmetric system by this consideration. For a symmetric system, by mere inspection, by judgment, one can predict the location of CG. That will not be the problem in symmetric system, but for a asymmetric system, we have to employ this consideration for locating the CG. Now we have located the CG. CG is here, and therefore CG is somewhere here. It is at a distance of 30 from this point. So while calculating eccentricity, its distance from the CG, line of action of the force, and the CG, their perpendicular distance is the eccentricity. So here CG point G is lying somewhere here, which is from board number 2 at a distance of 30. So therefore, from board number 3, it is at a distance of 60. This 60 plus 215. So total eccentricity will be 215 plus 60 is equal to 275 millimeters. So keep this in mind because we are in need of eccentricity whose value is 275 later on while calculating C. So here eccentricity, because center of gravity is somewhere here at a distance of 60 from bolt number 3, and line of action of the force is at a distance of 215 from bolt number 3. So eccentricity, the distance between the CG and the line of action of the force is 215 plus 60, that is 275. Now here, while calculating while calculating constant C, we are in need of W, E, and L1, L2, L3, etc. W, the applied load is 2370 Newton. So applied load W is 2370 Newton. Eccentricity, we have discussed, its value is 275. Now L1, L2, L3, three number of bolts are used. Therefore, in denominator, there will be sum of L1 square plus L2 square plus L3 square, like Now here it has been shown the point G. L1 is the distance of board number 1 from point G. G is the center of gravity. Distance of board number 1 from the CG. So here we can see that this distance is L1, but L1 will be in this triangle. This opposite side is having value of 30. This adjacent side is having value of 60. So this hypotenuse will be equal to root of 30 square plus 60 square. L1, the hypotenuse in this triangular system, hypotenuse will be equal to 30 square plus 60 square root. So its value will be 67.08. As far as board number 3 is considered, its distance from CG L3 will be equal to, in this right angle triangle, height is 30, base is 60. So hypotenuse L3 will be equal to root of 30 square plus 60 square. So again, this value of L3 will be 67.08. Now this L2, distance of board number 2 from the CG. If we consider this right angle triangle, its base is 30, height is 30, hypotenuse L2 is equal to root of 30 square plus 30 square. So L2 is equal to 42.42. Likewise, we can find out the distances L1, L2, L3 which are required while calculating constancy as well as secondary forces as getting applied at board number 1, board number 2 and board number 3, which is given by C times L1, C times L2, C times L3. So here also we are in need of L1, L2, L3, and also while calculating constancy we are in need of L1, L2, L3, etc. So now we are knowing all the terms required to be calculated for C, and therefore we can calculate value of C as 60.35 Newton per millimeter. Please note this unit, Newton per millimeter, of this constant C. Now multiplying this constant C by distances L1, L2, L3, we shall be in position to calculate Fs1, Fs2, Fs3, secondary shear forces as applied at different boards. So their values will be 4,048.5, 2,560, 4,048.5 Newton. So likewise, we have calculated primary and secondary forces. Now let us show, or let us find out the direction of these primary and secondary forces. Primary forces are always opposite in direction to the applied load. Applied load is in downward sense. Therefore, these primary forces shown in pink colored arrows FP1, FP2, FP3 are in upward sense. Now, secondary forces will be acting in such a direction as to cause opposite moment, opposite sense rotation of the bracket to the sense of rotation caused due to applied load. One can note that this applied load, this applied load 2370 will cause clockwise movement of the bracket. So secondary force is to be shown in such a sense as to cause anti-clockwise movement of the bracket. So therefore, while showing the secondary shear stress direction, we have to join the board center to the center of gravity, and a line drawn perpendicular is the line of action of secondary force. So here line of action of secondary force is here perpendicular to the line joining board number 2 to the CG. As shown here by a green arrow, this secondary shear stress will cause anti-clockwise movement of the bracket. Therefore, the shown direction is correct. As far as board number 1 is concerned, again we have to join center of gravity to the center of the board. A line drawn perpendicular to this line is the line of action of secondary force, and The secondary force, shear force Fs1 as shown by green colored arrow will cause anti-clockwise movement of the bracket. Therefore, this shown direction is correct. For bolt number 3, again join line CG to the center of gravity of bolt number 3. A line drawn perpendicular to this line is the line of action of secondary force Fs3, and upward arrow, green arrow shown for Fs3 will cause anti-clockwise movement of the bracket. Therefore, this shown direction is correct one. Now here also we have shown the angles between primary and secondary forces. Now our consideration is, after finding out the directions of primary and secondary shear forces, we are in need of calculating resultant shear force and resultant shear force, that too critically loaded bolt. Critically loaded bolt will carry maximum shear force, maximum resultant shear force, which will be taken into account for further analysis. So here, for finding out critically loaded bolt, one has to calculate maximum resultant shear force as experienced by any of the bolt. So one method is to calculate FR, the resultant shear force at each and every bolt, and by comparing the FR values, we can find out critically loaded bolt. But another consideration is, no need to calculate FR value, the resultant shear force value at each and every bolt. Rather, by applying some logic, we can directly predict which bolt is critically loaded, which bolt will be carrying maximum resultant shear force. The consideration or the logic is such that the bolt which is furthermost from the CG and which is having lesser value of theta will be carrying maximum resultant shear force, and therefore termed as critically loaded bolt. So in this figure you can observe bolt number 3 is further and also it is having lesser value of theta. Therefore bolt number 3 is critically loaded bolt, and FR value for bolt number 3 will be maximum one, which will be taken into account for further analysis. Now while calculating FR3, we are in need of theta 3. Now here one can note that theta 3 is the angle between primary and secondary forces, and that will be same as theta 3 as shown in this right angle triangle. In this right angle triangle, theta 3, opposite side, the height of the right angle triangle is 30, and adjacent side, the base of this right angle triangle is 60. So tan of theta 3 is equal to opposite side 30 divided by adjacent side 60. 30 upon 60 is half. Therefore, theta 3 is equal to tan inverse of half, which is equal to 26.56. After calculating theta 3, the same is the angle between primary and secondary force. So this value of theta 3 will be used while calculating FR3, the resultant shear force as experienced by critically loaded bolt number 3. So FR3 is equal to FP3 square plus FS3 square plus 2 times FP3 FS3 cos of theta 3. Now we are having with us value of FS3, value of FS3. Also we are having value of FP3 790. So we are in position, and also we are having theta 3 as 26.56. Therefore we are in position to calculate FR3. By mistake I have written FR1. This should be FR3. So FR3 is 4768.23 Newton. This is the maximum resultant shear force as experienced by any of the bolt. This has to be taken into account for further analysis. This maximum resultant shear force divided by core area of the cross section of the bolt will represent induced maximum shear stress. Induced maximum shear stress will be equal to maximum shear force divided by core cross section area. And permissible shear stress we have calculated, already calculated, its value is 63.88. So when we are trying to equate tau max with tau permissible, tau max will be 4768.23 divided by AC and tau permissible is 63.88. While equating AC is the unknown and value of AC will be calculated as 74.64 millimeter square. But AC is equal to pi by 4 DC square. Therefore, equating AC with pi by 4 DC square, you will be in position to calculate DC. DC's value will be 9.74 millimeters. Multiplying DC by 1.19, you will be in position to calculate value of D. In this particular case, D is equal to 11.6 millimeters. So next standard value of bolt M12 bolt will be M12 as the size of the bolt will be specified for this particular action, for this particular application or for this particular numerical. So in this case, one should be opt for, one should select M12 bolts for this particular application. M12, 3 number of bolts will be used for bolted assembly. So in this video tutorial, we have seen what are the threaded joints, what are the different types of threaded joints, how to find out primary and secondary forces, how to find resultant of primary and secondary forces, and how to design eccentrically loaded bolted joint in shear. So that's all in this video tutorial. Thank you.